Good morning. We're reading The Wheel on the School by Maynard de Jong, pictures by Maurice Sendak. We are on chapter 15, Storks in the Sea. It turned out to be little Jan who remembered to tell about the two storks that had flown down into the sea. His mother had carried him into the house, and now things were quieting down. Jan stood at the window to watch the big boys and Lena troop off to school to finish the interrupted morning session. The nice, quiet-spoken teacher who had carried him down all the ladders had told the big boys and Lena to get right back to school. But Jella hadn't followed the teacher. He had run back to the dike. Jan knew what for, to get the storks. But Linda had said they were the wrong storks. Jella had run off, but Auka had gone to the kitchen to fix himself a slice of bread with syrup. Auka came hurrying through the house to run after the others. He was biting his syrup bread. There came Jella, too, far down the street with the two big storks. "Look, Auka," Jan called after his brother. "He's got storks." "Storks?" Auka said. He stopped in his tracks. "What are you talking about?" "Jella's got storks, but he hasn't got the right storks, because the two live ones flew down in the sea. They stood in the sea." Auka wasn't even listening. He'd rushed to the window. He pulled the curtains aside. "Dead," Auka said in a queer voice, but he was talking to himself. "Drowned in the storm." "Shall I show you where the other two storks are, Auka?" Jan said helpfully. He eyed Auka's slice of bread. Auka wasn't even eating it. "What in the world are you talking about?" Auka said impatiently. "Storks in the sea." "Honest, Auka?" Auka looked hard at him. "You're not just making this up?" he asked. "Oh, no, Auka," Jan said earnestly. Jella was passing the house with the storks. Auka started to run out of the house after him. Then Auka turned to his younger brother. "Does Linda know?" he asked. "Oh, sure." Linda, being a girl, knew 10 times more words than Jan. Linda could explain himself. "I'll go ask Linda," Auka said. "May I have your bread, Auka? You're not eating it." "Here." Auka handed it to his brother and hurried next door to question Linda. "Oh, I forgot," Linda said in amazement. To think she'd forgotten. "I told Lena when I was in the tower, but she didn't hear me, and then I forgot. But two storks flew and flew, and then they flew down in the sea. I saw them, and I showed Jan. You can see them from the tower, Auka." Auka rushed out of the house. Jella was far down the street. Jella, come here. Come along with me. The kids saw storks fly down in the sea." "Sure, I've got 'em," Jella hollered back. "Live storks. They saw them fly. Hurry." Jella came sprinting. Halfway back to Auka, he took time to lay the storks down beside the steps of a stoop, and then he came on again. "They saw two storks come flying toward shore, the way I make it out, and land in the sea," Auka explained urgently. "Maybe they landed somewhere on a sandbar. I don't know. But they say two storks were standing in the sea. Come on." The two boys raced to the dike. They searched the sea, but the dike wasn't high enough. They were just looking against the crests of leaping waves. In the distance where they knew the sandbar lay, they could see nothing but dark water. Jella saw the dinghy which had been left behind by the fishing fleet. It rode restlessly at its short anchor rope below the dike. "Let's take the dinghy and row out there." "In that kind of sea?" "Gosh, Jella, we can't just go out on the say-so of two kids." Auka looked at the tower. They were both so sure. Wonder if the teacher locked the tower door in all his excitement. He was carrying Jan. "You could see he locked the gate to the churchyard all right," Jella said. "Yes, but you're tall. You could boost me up over the churchyard fence. If I could get up in the tower." They raced down the dike to try the plan. Auka kicked his wooden shoes off, and Jella boosted him as high as he could up the woven wire fence. Auka could just barely grab the top of the fence. He clung there a moment. Then, with Jella giving a savage shove at his heels, he swung his legs high and managed to vault over the top. He barely cleared it. There was a ripping sound as he caught in the fence for a second. He fell down hard inside the churchyard. "Made it," he gasped. After giving his torn trousers a hasty glance, Auka picked himself up and dashed to the tower. The door was unlocked. "Wait there for me," Auka yelled and disappeared inside. Jella stood staring up at the tower until his neck ached. At last, Auka's excited voice came from high in the tower. "Jella! Jella! They're there! They're there! I saw them playing. One was flapping and struggling. Maybe they're sucked in the sand. Run and tell them at the school. Tell Giannis, too, and get the dinghy ready. Tell the teacher to open the gate for me and—" Jella wasn't listening to all the instructions. Jella was running hard. Up in the bell loft, Auka hurried to the ladder to go down, but then he had to look at the storks just once more. He stared hard at the roiling sea, and then he found the storks again. They were far out at sea, out toward the islands. Far behind them, the lighthouse at the end of one island rose dimly white and round like a chalky crayon. The waves leaped gray and spooky under the dark sky. Only now and then, when the waves were leveled out before the sandbar, did the storks emerge from the grayness like two white blobs. Then one stork began flapping its wings. The motion of its huge wings made it suddenly stand out clear. Amazingly, it rose and flew heavily above the sandbar. But its mate did not rise after it. The big stork flapped down again beside the other one. They stood side by side, lonely in the gray of the endless, restless sea. Auka ran to the tower opening that overlooked the village. He stared over the roofs at the distant school. Nothing stirred there. They had to hurry. Ah, there was Giannis now. There he came in a wheelchair down the empty street. A coil of rope was draped over the back of his chair. At the bottom of the dike, Giannis sat helpless. The dike stopped him. Giannis looked up at the sky. Now his eyes turned to the tower clock. Auka guessed what he was doing. He was making a reckoning of the time for the flood tide to come. There couldn't be much time, for now Giannis whirled his chair around impatiently and looked back down the street. There they came at last, the boys and Lena, racing far out ahead of the teacher. Giannis did not wait for the teacher. Giannis did not wait for the teacher. He had the four boys carry him and his chair up the dike steps. Lena pushed with all her strength against the back of the chair. Now the teacher was there, too. He grabbed the chair with Lena. Up Giannis went. Once on the top of the dike, he rolled himself headlong down the slope of the dike toward the sea. Oh, Giannis knew. He was wasting no time. Good old Giannis, Auka said in his utter relief. They were forgetting him. Auka started to yell at the group below the dike, but suddenly he reconsidered. It was far more important that they get the dinghy out. Now Giannis had Jella wade into the sea to bring the dinghy to the foot of the dike. Much water was standing against the dike, even in the last hour of ebb tide. Big Jella wrestled the boat to the dike. Hey, they were lifting Giannis into the boat. Giannis himself was going out. That's why Giannis had brought the rope. The teacher lashed Giannis to the seat. Giannis had thought of it. No one else would have. As he had no balance, Giannis had to be tied down. Otherwise, when he pulled on the oars, he'd go flat on his back in the bottom of the boat. Now Jella and the teacher got into the seat ahead of Giannis's seat. Auka could see Giannis handing the teacher a glove. Giannis had even thought of that. But that was right, too. The teacher's hands were soft. Without gloves, they'd blister and be useless long before the hard pull to the sandbar was over. Amazingly, Lena was going along, too. She was stepping into the back of the boat. And Pierre clambered into the front. But Auka and Dirk were staying behind. Why Pierre and Lena? Oh, they were the smallest, the lightest. That must be it. Yes, that would be it. Pierre and Lena were going along to hold the wild storks while the others rowed. Oh, Giannis had thought of everything. Good old Giannis. Now Auka and Dirk were shoving the boat clear of the dike. Giannis was flailing his oars mightily. Now the two in front were catching the rhythm of the oar stroke. The boat crept ahead and moved steadily away from the dike. It would be a long, hard journey. Auka hurried back to the seaside of the tower. When at last the waves let him see the storks again, the two white birds were standing like sentinels. They weren't flapping their wings anymore. They weren't struggling. Auka suddenly realized he was bone cold. He shivered and hurried back to the village side of the tower to see what Dirk and Auka were doing. They were running along the dike toward the tower, and Dirk was waving something. They had the key to the churchyard gate. Teacher hadn't forgotten him. Auka hurried down the ladders in the tower.